Good Monday morning. Yes, I said Monday. Thank you for joining us here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Across from me, I usually say Carlene now that I've been filling in a morning show, but it's Jeb. Jeb Goldman is here.
How's it going, everybody?
How are you doing, Jeb?
You know what? I'm doing pretty well. I'll pull up this cam right here. We got
the A team here.
We got the squad.
There you go.
These are my
there
guys
you go.
right here.
Chris Mulcahy back from vacation after a week off. Jeb here joining us on the morning. You usually see Jeb in the afternoon, evenings. Mm-hmm. So this is different. But I like different.
Yeah, different's good.
I like different. Let's not waste any time. Let's talk to Chris Mulcahy for a little bit. Chris, welcome back from vacation. Before we get into the forecast, how was your vacation?
It was great. I actually was really excited. We were sitting on the balcony. JT was taking a nap, and I told Kim, I was like, hey, look over there. Look at this rotation. I got to see a water spout form.
Whoa.
Yeah, wow. That was awesome. So I was super pumped. Of course, we were not enjoying our active beach day at that point. But yeah, no, it was much drier at the end, but I think it was like enough cloud cover and storms on and off that kept me from burning myself. So that's a good thing.
Hopefully you did not work at all. I know. Okay, so you're good with just kind of turning off the. Okay, all right.
So instead of being a meteorologist, I just was a weather enthusiast. So yeah, so that stuff I would geek out about. No, but I'm really good about pretty much disconnecting from my phone and separating my life. So if anyone messaged me, I apologize. I'll get back to you this week.
Well, no wonder why you didn't get. No, I'm joking. I did not message you at all. I do a great job of not messaging folks. I haven't messaged Jane since she's been on vacation. I will not talk to her until she gets back into the building.
Okay, I'll do the same thing.
I like to respect vacations. Chris, now that you're back, we got to talk about it.
Okay.
One, return of the humidity. And I also know you're going to get into this. You're tracking Hurricane Aaron as of Friday. So let's get right into it, Chris.
Okay, that one popped up quick. So we'll separate this into two pieces. So number one, let's talk about today's highs. This is officially day number 4 that we're going to have a high that's 90 plus. Now that's nothing, 4 days in a row compared to 26. But actually the last time that we had 3 or more consecutive days hitting 90 plus was actually the end of that historic streak that ended on August 1st. So it's been a while since we've been this hot for this long. If you look at the numbers to the far right here, it actually will feel like 97 to 99 for a peak heat index. That's not anything different. That's literally the hottest that we felt over the last 3 days. Yesterday, the peak was 98. The day before that was 99. So very similar. I have a high of 93 to 94 across the greater Charlotte area. So enjoy the heat as we are cranking it up. Now, overnight tonight, our lows are going to become a little bit more mild. This morning, we dropped down to 74. We're going to be at 72, but still holding on to a heat index most of the overnight. Usually, once you drop down below 76, you don't really have much of a heat index, even if you do have a really high dew point. So that's going to be one of the significant things to mention there. There's also a few stats that I want to mention. So I was rolling through the data, and this one was pretty staggering to me, is the amount of rain that we've seen so far is actually historic through the first half of August. But check this out. That we've only had 4 days that haven't had measurable rain for the first half of August. And 2 of those 4 actually had a trace of rain. Measurable is anything that's 0.01 inches or greater. And we've had close to about 7 inches of rain so far at Charlotte Douglas International Airport. And if you're more of a visual person here, I made this wet dry calendar for you. You can see better for this kind of gray poupon type color right there. The 9th and 10th and the 16th and 17th. So surprisingly, the last couple of weekends have been dry. I think that could change coming up here. So let's move forward to our rain chances that we have for today. I think right around 2 o'clock, that's that magic hour, you have a chance for an isolated storm. And that's pretty much the forecast. We have a chance for isolated storms each and every day this week, but a better chance to become more scattered, kind of take over the map Friday heading through this weekend. So here's what it looks like. If you live along the I-85 corridor, you have a chance for storms really between about 2 and 6. Some of them can linger as late as 8 o'clock. Also, there's another zone that have a chance for a little uplift from Morganton down over to Asheville. But I think a lot of us are staying dry today. So nothing that's really, hey, you're going to see rain from this time to this time. It's just that usual luck of the draw. Who's the unlucky one that gets the quick downpour? Then, in the near term, we also have a coastal low that's attached attached to this front to the north, that is our saving grace. So talk about putting up the Heisman. As long as that's there, that actually kind of blocks anything like a giant hurricane from moving into the Carolinas. If we had the Bermuda High a little bit further west and that system was not there, we'd be talking about a major hurricane potentially making landfall here in the Carolinas. Now, I'm not saying we're not going to have impacts, but we're not going to have direct hits from this. So this is what our futurecast is showing by 9 p.m. on Tuesday. That is a big, bad hurricane. And the most recent update that I've seen has actually been from the hurricane reconnaissance. So let's switch over to hurricane forecasting. Where is it? Okay. So actively right now, hurricane hunters are within this storm. So the most recent update has 130 mile per hour winds, which is just on the cusp of a category 4. But this is the real-time data that has been filtered in. So right now, the hurricane hunters are in the northeastern quadrant of this massive hurricane. And the peak wind speed that they've reported back so far is 138 miles per hour. So we haven't really changed any new updates as far as the wind speed yet. But when the 11 o'clock update comes out, I bet it'll be around 140 to 145. They're still investigating to see what is the strongest. So they're going to do one more pass, and then they'll return to their base. I think it's reporting from Puerto Rico, and then they'll head back up a little bit later on. I think what's the most interesting part, when I've talked to hurricane hunters in the past, they actually would prefer a category 4 or 5 compared to a tropical storm. And you might be saying, well, that's crazy. Well, the reason why is they're more predictable. Since the winds are much stronger, they know the flows, and there's a lot more wind turbulence in a tropical storm because it's still kind of figuring it out what it wants to do. So it's these type of conditions that are actually safer to fly into than, say, even a low-end tropical storm. So quick little stat there. I think one of the biggest issues that we're going to see here in the Carolinas is the wave heights. Anything in that green and yellow is representing wave heights up to 20 feet. Now, I'm not saying we're going to see that, but whenever you have a hurricane of this magnitude, what it does is it lifts like a bulge of the water up, and that's what creates essentially the storm surge. So since this system is still going to be filtering in winds out of the northeast, it's going to be around the Outer Banks that could have some localized flooding. So that's why areas like Hatteras are calling for mandatory evacuations. Areas that flood in scenarios like this need to get out. So even though the 250 mile per mile center is offshore, that's still enough distance to cause some of that flooding. So I think that's the biggest issue there. But then also the rip currents. These aren't just dangerous rip currents, they're life-threatening, because whenever a storm is even up to 1,000 miles out in the Atlantic, it can cause rip currents or allows for a better environment for them. When it's this close, within 250 to 300 miles, that means that those are some choppy seas, not ones that you really want to go into. So I can thank my lucky stars that we chose this past weekend to go to Myrtle Beach. It just could be dangerous. So just expect a lot of red flags, even double red flags at times, if there's going to be a real significance as far as those rip currents go. As far as the forecast goes, and I'll show you the map version, but I just want to show you the winds first. They're anticipating this thing to go up to about 145 to maybe 150 for a max. It already peaked to 160, so it went through rapid intensification. It was the 43rd Category 5 that we've had in history, and we'll continue to see, I think, a downward trend as far as the wind speeds go, as it's heading into some slightly cooler waters day by day, eventually down to a Category 1 by about Saturday. So let's go and look at the path. The most recent update has that this tropical track hasn't really changed too much, but there will be a cone adjustment for the 11 o'clock update, so that's the one that's really going to matter. As you can see, 130 miles per hour by about 2 a.m. on Tuesday, but notice this track. It goes pretty much directly right towards the Carolinas, but then it has this sharp shift off towards the east, so it's literally splitting almost the midway point between St. George and Bermuda and the eastern Carolinas. That's actually the best case scenario for a storm this strong. Now, ideally, we would want to stay a little bit further out to sea, but just seeing that this is gliding really away from any sort of land is the best idea that we can have. I don't think there's anything that's going to change this from making landfall in the Carolinas. It could nudge a little bit further west, which would just be higher coastal flooding, but again, best case scenario that we're not getting a direct landfall from this, because this would have been a historic storm. And as we know, for what the Carolinas has dealt with, we don't need any more historic storms for many more years or any years to come. We are also in the peak of hurricane season. Today officially is August 18th. Even though September 10th is the exact median, the absolute peak, the pinnacle of hurricane season, it's technically August 20th to October 10th that we have most of the storms. And going forward, we're going to have a lot more of these busy maps that I want to show you the next storm that's on the list. In the next 5 to 7 days, it looks like, it could potentially form into a hurricane in the exact same zone that has very warm water temperatures as Erin did. Now, Erin started a little bit further north, so it is actually going to develop in some more southerly waters, which is even warmer because it's close to the equator. So there's a good chance that this turns into another hurricane, maybe even another major hurricane, but this one has a better chance of impacting the Lesser Antilles, perchance parts around Puerto Rico, so ones that we really have to keep an eye on, and then after that, anything goes. It's this time of the year that a developing tropical system completely can turn our forecast upside down. As far as the next storm up, it's Fernan. That's not Fernand. It's Fernan is going to be the next storm, then Gabrielle, and then Umberto. Let's get to our 7-day forecast, or actually I want to go 10s. You see the 7-day all the time. Today is going to be the hottest day that we're going to have going forward. We're a little bit cooler because of more cloud cover and some rain. And then we're actually back to the lower 80s for this weekend. That's also going to come with increased rain chances, but really a big shift to more of a cooler end to August overall compared to this little 90-degree stretch. That's also going to chill our lows back to the 60s. That up to yesterday, it was still the 17th coolest August up to date, but we might actually hold on to the top 20 spot the way that things are starting to trend. And the last of our 10-10-10 forecast is our precipitation chances. Definitely coming up Friday, Saturday, and Sunday as we have extra tropical moisture left over from Erin departing. So that's everything you need to know about Hurricane Erin and our near-term forecast. All in all, pretty typical for August, and get ready for a lot more hurricanes to come.
Man, I was looking at the hurricane names coming up.
Let's bring it back. Let me see. Do you any standouts here?
Okay. Fernand is not. I already know, especially folks here in the South, because I'm one, so I could say it. We're going to mispronounce that one a lot.
I'll never forget 2020's Isaias.
I was about to say that.
Yep, nope. Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. We had, I think, the station I worked at the time, we had a whole meeting about how to pronounce it. So, yeah. It's just, is that Imelda?
Imelda. So
Imelda?
Imelda.
Okay.
Yeah, because there are 3 main languages that these derive from. It's English, Spanish, and French.
Okay.
So that's why there's such a diversity here. So you have obviously more of the English Jerrys to the Imeldas and Umbertos. And for me personally, the letters that I would be looking out for the most is actually Fernan, Imelda, and potentially Karen and Melissa. And the reason why I say that is, one, I names are retired more than any other name by far. And F's are actually number 3 on that list. And we typically here in the Carolinas have had our fair share of M's. And then Karens, you know the stipulation with Karens, you just got to watch out. I know if Karen becomes a big deal, the internet's going to go crazy.
It's going to be insane. But yeah, it's okay. And it's Tanya, not Tanya.
Yeah, it is a Tan, not a Tan.
Okay. We do have a Tanya.
Yes.
Okay. So I just, Tanya Rivera.
No, always got to check with
the
Tans and the Tara, because sometimes it's Tara or Tara. So yeah, no. But Tanya.
And look, I had to ask because I had to put Jeb out there. He left me hanging on Friday, because all day I was saying, don't laugh, Chris. I was saying Real Salt Lake. And then he comes in, gives his
soccer team,
and then he comes in and says Real, and I'm like, wait, I've been saying it wrong the entire time.
Oh yeah, no, I also would say Real Madrid. I did the same thing.
And didn't even correct me. He just, which I guess I appreciate. But I'm like, Jeff, come on, man.
I feel like it's close enough. I mean, it's Salt Lake City. I don't know how. I mean, it could be real.
Maybe it's real. Yeah, Nick, I just learned this in the last year, so it's not just you, man.
Okay.
So I get it.
Oh man, Chris McKay, welcome back.
Thanks, man. Thanks for
I know you've
keeping
been
it
back for quite some time doing the morning show, but welcome back to the stream.
No, do you know what? It's a pleasure, and thanks for keeping it real.
Oh man, I wish I had a better comeback for that, but I don't. I'm just gonna keep it real.
Hey, it's Monday, man. Don't worry about it.
Chris, thank you for your time. We'll
Always.
see you tomorrow. All right, so let's move on. Again, great forecast there by Chris. We'll check in with him tomorrow. We always have updates on our forecast. Let's get to some of our top headlines. So one of the headlines that we're following, you might have saw this on the morning show, is this. So PSA airline flight attendants are set to rally in Charlotte for fair pay amid negotiation standstill. All right, so, and that's the headline right now in our web article, WCNC.com, and on our digital platform. So today at 1 p.m., PSA Airlines flight attendants will hold a demonstration outside of Charlotte Douglas International Airport at the intersection of Wilkinson Boulevard and the airport entrance as part of nationwide day of action. Workers are calling for new labor contract as they call for more than 2 years of stalled negotiations. So 2 years of stalled negotiations have been going on, according to them, and they want action. They're demanding action. So we will be following this throughout the day, and as that demonstration takes place. This is a video from a previous one. I believe from earlier this year. Don't quote me on that one. But again, we will follow that right there. Our next headline we want to get to is this. This is a fire out of Chester County. One person died in a house fire in Chester County that sent exploding oxygen tanks across a highway and forced firefighters to battle intense flames that collapsed the home's roof. According to authorities, these are pictures from the High Point Fire District. They responded along with mutual aid from Pageland Fire and Sand Hill Fire Departments. And this happened Sunday morning around 9:30 a.m. along Dudley Road. This is actually, it was on Highway 207 near Dudley Road. So again, they are still working on that investigation. Again, that's pictures from the High Point Fire District. And then we are working on our next headline. This is a situation out of southeast Charlotte. One person died after drowning there. The drowning happened on Kirkpatrick Road near Rama Road, according to medic. Now, the person was pronounced dead at the scene. The victim's name has not been released. It's not known what led to this drowning. Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, CMPD, has not released any further details. So we'll continue to keep our eye on that. On that situation there, again, one person drowns in southeast Charlotte. So those are our top headlines on this morning. All right, so we talked a lot about it. Back to school, we have more school districts starting the school year today. And CMS set to start soon. And there are concerns when it comes to ICE. So we got a chance to speak with Camino, which is a nonprofit here in Charlotte. They're based in North Charlotte, and they weighed in on how they are supporting CMS as those concerns continue to come about, again, concerning ICE. Let's take a listen into that full interview Miles Harris did recently.
We're just talking a little bit, about a few things, but I was telling you that on Tuesday I was attending the Charlotte-Mecklenburg School Board meeting, and they really weren't able to get to anything else because every person who spoke, they were just so afraid of what's next when it comes to ICE and how CMS is going to handle that. What is your biggest concern right now with the folks that you serve?
Again, fear is paralyzing. And so what I see is that the narrative has come to this place where we are calling Latinos the problem, when I really believe they're the solution, the workforce, the contribution to our society. But so it puts a target on a whole group of people's back. And at the beginning they're saying we're going after violent criminals and illegal violent criminals that are in our country. But it seems like it's been conflated to a people group, because now immigration has a name and a face It's the Latino community. So I think, that what happens as a result of that are people go into hiding. When threatened, they're not going to call the police. So that creates more crime in neighborhoods. They're not going to the doctor to keep up their health, which ends up being a public health crisis. If kids don't go to school, then think about how far behind they are, and do they get discouraged, then drop out of school? And it's beneficial for all of us that these kids are being educated. And so I do think these threats, which seemingly it's more about intimidation than really execution, is unfounded. It's not. I don't think it represents us well, and I think it's damaging, not just to that community, but to our whole community.
So a lot of no-shows, even when it comes to doctor's appointments.
Yeah, at our clinic, we're seeing probably 25-30% of the people not showing up for their appointments, and when calling them, they're afraid to get out.
How are you telling these people to move forward when it comes to, because their kids are going to go back to school? What tips do you give them on
Yeah.
how to handle it?
So one message I've been saying from the very beginning of this new wave of immigration enforcement is faith and fear look exactly alike. They both ask you to believe something that hasn't happened yet. And fear will wreck you. And so we tell people, keep doing what's right. Keep doing what's good. Do what's good for your family. Don't listen to the bigger conversation. Keep it real close, just with your home. Do what you need to do to be healthy, happy, and don't stop, because the likelihood of something happening is relatively low, but that fear is so big. So we're trying to encourage people, keep doing what's right. Don't do things that would jeopardize you. Don't do unnecessary things. But you got to keep healthy. You got to keep hopeful, and just wait through this wave that will come to an end.
And what steps do they need to be taking right now when it comes to, I know we talked on the phone about, having their passport, talking about the immigration status, kind of discuss what steps.
Sure.
these
Yeah,
families-
preparedness is very important, right? To have power of attorney if a parent is deported and the kids are still here. They need to have a plan for their family, communication plan, have people that are on speed dial that can be called. If they have access to an attorney, it's great to have an attorney, because our immigration law is so complicated. Sometimes if you're not familiar, you think it's so black and white that, these people just didn't want to go through the process. But that is just not the case at all. So if they can get an attorney, have an attorney. And again, just keeping those positive steps, doing what's right. But having a plan, having information, having your documents and communication plan in order.
And for those who have been, you said you just spoke to someone last night who their family member was deported. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, just a sweet lady who is part of our center here. She was on the phone actually yesterday afternoon outside my office, and I went out and she was crying, and her father had just been picked up and being deported. No criminal offense. He overstayed a visa, working, got picked up, now he's been deported. Very disruptive for that family.
And you're seeing a lot of that right now, or some of that right now. What advice do you give them when they're going through this right now?
Well, I didn't have a whole lot. I asked, does he have a place to go back to? Because so many of these people have been here for years. And so they don't have an address to go back to. They don't have an infrastructure to go back to. Whole family units are here. So it was compassionate, telling her we'd be praying for her and following up to see if there's anything we can do. But our understanding at this point, there's nothing that can be done legally. He's going to be deported.
Any final thoughts, any closing remarks?
I like to encourage everybody that, maybe not are Latinos, to look at the incredible contribution this group of people give to our communities. And it's not just people who pick our fruit and harvest our crops. Some of the biggest and most important leaders in our hospital systems are Latinos, And so I think we need to, kind of stay above the narrative right now and think about our neighbors who are contributing so much and try to encourage them and come together as a community and continue to do what's right within our capacity and stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves, speak up for those who can't speak for themselves.
Do you know maybe a percentage of how many calls you receive a month, a day, whatever you have on file from people who are really concerned about what is next for them and their families?
Yeah, we, with almost every person that comes here that we service, we have a clinic, a dental clinic, and behavioral health, other programs. It is a common recurring theme. And so as sharing with our staff, they'll just talk about, how concerned they are. I think another one of the misconceptions is that there are two groups of Latinos, the documented and the undocumented, the legal and the illegal, and we don't realize they all live in the same house. This immigration issue affects so many of the families who are our great U.S. citizens, but they have somebody that's either out of status or in process that have tried and are trying, and right now it's a very, very vulnerable group of people. So yeah, it's a part of the daily narrative. One of the things we did with health is we pivoted, and now we offer telehealth in Spanish to the whole community. So that way we can take away one step of, one obstacle, the perceived obstacle about coming here.
So you offer telehealth for those who are scared to show up?
Correct.
Basically.
And we offer that not just in Charlotte and Mecklenburg County, but throughout the whole state.
When did you start that?
We started that about 3 months ago, and we have a network of leaders throughout the state of about 875 Latino leaders that are in all 100 counties, and they're kind of ambassadors to help, when people are afraid, and they can get primary care in language via telehealth. It's one way we thought we could help our whole community. Again, if somebody gets into crisis and goes to the emergency room and uninsured, it's a cost to everybody. So as we serve these people because I think they're some of the best people in the world, but also I do it for my children, my grandchildren, because as a community, it's good that we all flourish. And I think that's another thing we should think of.
How did it make you feel when you spoke with the woman yesterday whose father will be reported back?
Oh yeah, my heart was broken. I mean, I know her kids, just wonderful family. And the feeling of desperation, of not being able to do anything, it's really tragic. And a lot of our staff have this compassion fatigue right now. Speaking to a couple of our physicians here, and just tears in their eyes, the palpable fear that affects health. It's a very difficult time for our community right now.
Anything to add, Alex?
Yeah, so I think we heard a story long ago, but how are you guys connected to schools? Like, do you have any programs involved with the kids at schools, or even teachers, parents?
Yeah, we work closely with CMS on many fronts. We've had teachers come out. A lot of the social workers will come and do training here. Also through our behavioral health, we connect on some front with those. We don't have capacity to hit the whole. CMS is a big group, but we do connect with them, and we'll have social workers come out here, families that have been affected, and they'll come here for help, and so we can help with food and we can help with some other things, and but we try to partner with our local systems to help as they run upon need. I do have to say, Charlotte is a great city. The of this issue is very practical, because immigration is not a local issue, it's not a state issue, it's a federal issue. And so it's been an honor for me to be able to serve together with police, with local government, with our systems. I appreciate their posture.
That was actually Siobhan Riley. I said Miles Harris, but I was Siobhan Riley speaking with Camino regarding the impact of ICE and their support. But we actually had a shot up. We had a shot, and I'll go ahead and talk about it since we showed that shot. That was a breaking news situation there in Utah. I think we got the shot back up, Jeb. on router 3. So, yeah, here it is. This is the scene. So you can see it here. The sun's up. This is Tremonton, Utah. I believe I'm saying that right. Tremonton, Utah. This is in the Salt Lake City area. So 2 police officers were shot and killed, and a deputy and a K-9 were injured while responding to a domestic disturbance in Tremonton late Sunday. This is coming from the NBC affiliate there in Salt Lake City, Utah. So an officer from Tremonton Garland Police responded to several hang-up calls from a residence near North and East about 9 p.m. And that's according to city police. Now, the officer spoke to a resident about an apparent domestic dispute when a man with a gun emerged from the house and shot the officer, fatally shooting that officer. A second officer who arrived to assist was also fatally shot. A deputy from the Box Elder County Sheriff's Office also responded. The suspect fired several shots into that deputy's vehicle, hitting the K-9 and deputy. The deputy was taken to the hospital where KSL, our NBC affiliate there in Salt Lake City, is reporting that that deputy is in fair condition right now. The K-9 is also recovering. Additional officers arrested the suspected shooter and booked him into the Box Elder County Jail for investigation of aggravated murder. And again, you can take a look at that scene. That scene has been there for hours at this point. And now that the sun is up, you can see more of the scene. We actually got a chance to take a look at the scene from earlier before the sun came up. But again, that is a look at, it looks like Highway Patrol also there investigating. But again, a tragic situation. There are 2 police officers shot and killed, and the deputy and K-9 were injured while responding to a domestic disturbance. And again, this is in Tremonton, Utah, near Salt Lake City, Utah. This happened late Sunday night. So this is video from the scene. So we'll continue to keep an eye on this as more information and names and details continue to emerge from this investigation. All right, let's shift gears now. Jeb, I totally blanked. Where do we want to go next? Okay, yeah, there it is. So as soon as I forget something, it comes right back to me. It's Monday, folks. I know you can relate at home. Let's get to this. So there was a high-stakes meeting between Vladimir Putin and President Trump in Alaska on Friday. We brought it to you right here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus, and we had a great breakdown of that. We'll show that a little bit later. But today, there is another high-stakes meeting. President Trump and Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky, and along with European leaders, will be at the White House this afternoon. So Ukraine's future could hinge on a hastily, as AP News is reporting, hastily assembled meeting Monday at the White House. Again, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky brings some European leaders with him to show U.S. President Donald Trump a united front against Russia. Again, I'm reading this off of AP News. We have an update, and we have the latest on this meeting and what we can expect today from NBC's Alice Barr. Let's take a listen in to her story.
Today, the next step in the push for peace, with President Trump hosting Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at the White House, along with several European leaders signaling their support for Ukraine's interests and future security in any peace deal with Russia. President Trump posting overnight, "Never had so many European leaders at one time. My great honor to host them," while Zelensky cautioned against past moves giving up Ukrainian territory, which he said Putin simply used as a springboard for a new attack. Russian President Vladimir Putin, fresh off his Friday summit in Alaska with President Trump, is demanding to keep the roughly 20% of Ukraine that Russia now occupies. Secretary of State Marco Rubio saying the U.S. is not pressing for that.
If there's going to be a peace deal, it's not going to look like that.
While defending the Trump administration's push for a broader peace deal over the ceasefire Ukraine and Europe want first, but Russia denied. President Trump had said there would be severe consequences if Putin said no. Secretary Rubio now saying imposing more sanctions imperils negotiations.
The minute he takes those steps, all talk stop.
Democrats slamming the administration's approach and Putin's red carpet treatment in Alaska.
And so Putin walks away with his photo op with zero commitments made and zero consequences. What a great day for Russia.
Special Envoy Steve Witkoff saying Russia did agree to strengthened security guarantees for Ukraine, noting there are plenty of details to discuss when Ukraine gets its seat at the table today. President Trump also posted overnight that Zelensky could end the war almost immediately, while appearing to refer to more of Putin's demands to stop the Russian assault. The president saying there's no getting back Crimea, ceded more than a decade ago, and no Ukraine joining NATO. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
And that was Alice Barr from NBC giving us the latest on that meeting. Zelensky, President Trump, European leaders will be at the White House today to talk about it. All right, so Friday, again, as I mentioned, Trump had a meeting with Vladimir Putin, president of Russia, in Alaska. We brought it to you live here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We also had a phenomenal breakdown as this was happening and afterwards. But before we go to that, just to give you some details on what's supposed to happen today, give you a rough outline. Again, this is a rough outline. So at noon, European leaders are supposed to arrive at the White House. Then at 1 o'clock, President Trump is expected to greet President Vladimir Zelensky at 1 p.m. So, and then shortly after that, they're supposed to meet. That's at 1:15. 2:15, Trump is expected to meet with European leaders for lunch. This is supposed to be a closed event. And then at 2:30, there is supposed to be a photo op of some sorts. And then at 3 p.m., Trump is expected to meet with European leaders again. So it's unclear if we are expected to hear from President Trump today, along with the European leaders, in some sort of press conference, sort of like he did with Vladimir Putin. But again, Vladimir Putin is a person that Trump met on Friday. We brought that to you here. President Trump was hopeful of a peace agreement. That did not happen after that meeting. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jeb. I believe this was Putin's first time in the U.S. in 10 years, in about 10 years.
Yeah, I think at least during President Trump's administration.
Yeah.
First or second.
Yeah. So it was a high-stakes meeting, peace talks. I guess President Trump was hopeful for a peace agreement when it comes to Russia, Ukraine, but it didn't materialize. But again, as I mentioned, we had a breakdown in real time as this was happening and as the press conference was happening between Putin and President Trump. Let's take a listen. Who did we speak with? I know it was Colin, and who did we speak with on?
Professor Lars from
Okay.
UNC. He's an
Okay.
expert on Eastern European relations and has been closely following the developments in Ukraine and Russia for the last 10 years and historically for about the last 40.
Yeah, again, I got a chance to listen to it. It's a great breakdown. So in case you missed it, and before this meeting between Zelensky, European leaders, and President Trump, we want to catch you up. So let's listen in to this full breakdown between that we had on Friday. Let's take a listen in.
All right, just ending the press conference that everyone has been waiting for all day, shorter than I think many people thought, and a very broad touch on the pursuing peace narrative by both presidents. Obviously, President Putin starting with the history and historical relations of Alaska, the United States, and Russia as a whole, and then obviously going on to talk about Ukraine, the ties that they both have. But he really did double down on Russian interests and wanting to annex and make part of Ukraine, if not all of Ukraine, a part of Russia, which is something that many people around the globe are starting to question. So we do want to bring in our professor Klaus Lehrs, who is a distinguished professor from UNC Chapel Hill. And Klaus, great to have you here. I just want to start with first what you heard. Did anything surprise you? And like I said, pretty short between these two to take this press conference. Really was less than 10 minutes almost.
Yeah, that was a little surprising, and thank you for inviting me. It's good to be here. What was surprising, I think, was the tone of both men. You know, they really spoke like old friends who really missed each other. They had only seen each other last in 2019, so 6 years ago. And Trump seemed to really appreciate Putin. He spoke of him like an old friend. He once again said that there was no Russia hoax, that Putin had always understood him, and he referred to Putin as Vladimir with his first name. So, you know, after all, the Russians have invaded Ukraine, and Putin is well known for killing his opponents domestically and doing all sorts of very nasty things. And to meet with such a man might be necessary, but to meet in such a warm way, I wonder whether that made sense and whether that was necessary. And I think Trump will get a lot of criticism for that. But he sees Putin as a loyal friend, someone he can rely on. And this is quite shocking.
Well, speaking of some shocking images, Klaus, I think you probably saw this. I don't think I've ever seen an ally or even an adversary join with the president of the then United States in his presidential limousine, the Beast as they call it. And in fact, you saw them exchange words. No translator that I saw got into that limo with them. And I do know that President Putin understands and knows English enough to hold a conversation. So I think that will be really one of the astonishing images that will come out of this. Obviously, we saw as both men went into the Beast, a B-2 bomber flying overhead with 4 F-222 Raptors flanking it. They rode past Spirit, the B-2 bomber, on the ground. So maybe some shows of strength, but in fact, President Putin didn't have to do anything to get this meeting, and it happened here in the United States. What would you say to that?
Yeah, it started with a ceremony at the beginning, and what you just said, that very warm welcome, the red carpet for Putin, and then riding in the limousine with Trump by himself. And who knows what the two men agreed upon in that car, what they talked about. Perhaps they just made small talk, may well have been the case. Maybe they already talked about the forthcoming meeting and how they wanted to direct that meeting. We will never know because notes were not taken, interpreters were not there. We don't know what is happening between these two men. And we know that Trump always had a fascination with Vladimir Putin. Some people have argued, so that hasn't been proven, that Putin has some sort of negative proof on his bad doings in the past. We don't know about that. But, you know, when you look at the friendly relationship between Putin, after all, a war criminal, an aggressor who has started a war, he invaded Crimea in 2014 and then invaded Ukraine in a full-scale way in 2022, and Trump treats him like an old friend. This is shocking, and it started right at the beginning with the welcoming ceremony.
Well, it certainly did, and really juxtaposed from his first term, as you remember, I'm sure, Klaus, that the president stuck with the Obama administration's sanctions, which are still around. But as you said, it really was striking to see the two meet each other, greet each other, smile in one each other's handshakes, because we saw very different scenes when President Obama met with then President Vladimir Putin as well. So let's just talk about those relations. And do you see this setting the stage potentially for part of the territory of Ukraine, or maybe all of it, to be annexed to Russia? Because as we both listened to, Vladimir Putin was very forthright in doubling down on his need and necessity to make Ukraine a part of Russia. Did you kind of hear the same thing?
Yeah, and the only concession Putin seems to have made was by actually going to U.S. territory, to Alaska. That was the only small concession he made. Apart from that, he doesn't seem to have withdrawn from any of his demands, which he has had for many years now, that really Ukraine is part of Russia, that Ukraine should not be a sovereign nation state, but should really be under the influence of Russia. That is his demand at the beginning in 2014, 2022, and it still seems to to be his demand. We have not heard anything in that press conference about a ceasefire, and Trump always went into the meeting said he wants to achieve a ceasefire. Instead, that was hardly mentioned. We only know there might be another meeting, perhaps a meeting taking place in Moscow. We still don't know whether that is a meeting between Trump and Putin again, or whether Zelensky will be allowed to join that meeting. And of course, that displays the whole terrible scenario of having a meeting between an aggressor state and the American president, and the other warring party, the invaded party, the victim, Ukraine, was not allowed to participate in that meeting. This is shocking, and that is not what is normally done in diplomacy. If you want to mediate, and often mediation by the United States is a sensible idea, and Trump himself has done it successfully. For example, only last week with Azerbaijan and Armenia, where both presidents were invited to the White House and a deal was worked out. Admittedly, that deal was based on what the Biden administration had achieved, but still Trump used America's good offices to bring the two presidents closer together. So Zelensky should also have been there in Alaska. It is clear if the United States wants to mediate, then both parties to the conflict should be there. But Zelensky was not allowed to be there. And we all know that last week and the week before, Zelensky desperately tried to be invited, to be there at the meeting. And then there also was talk, perhaps immediately after the Putin-Trump meeting, there would be another meeting with Zelensky. But that doesn't seem to be on the agenda for the time being. And whether Zelensky really wants to travel to Moscow to meet with Putin, that I very much doubt.
You make some great points, Professor Lars. I mean, it is very unorthodox to be speaking about a ceasefire, about that country without that country's leader in the presence of the other folks that are talking about that ceasefire. So I agree. I think a lot of folks are watching this and waiting for what is next, although I don't know if anyone knows. And in fact, we did see reports from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky just a number of hours ago that Russia continues its offensive of Ukraine. So that does not back down. And it seems, Professor Lars, that the UN, the EU, they are anxiously watching this because.
All right, so we want to shift away from this discussion and bring you here live. So this is breaking news. This is a press conference. This is the first day of a hearing, first day of the deposition on regarding Epstein Island. Do we know where this is? Okay, so all right, so let's listen in. We just saw this shot. Let's listen in.
I think that we're going to have I think we'll receive the documents very soon. They're compiling everything together. I think we're working together in a good faith effort, and everything's coming along. I expect to receive the documents very, very soon.
Is that their explanation, though, that there's just so many documents that they can't meet your deadline?
Well, we always get that explanation in every investigation we've done in the 2.5 years I've been here, but I think that I'm confident we're going to get the documents.
Are there other topics you're hoping to ask him about as well, or just Epstein and Maxwell?
Well, the subpoena was just for Epstein. There are some other things that I'm curious about, so we'll see how it goes. But obviously the purpose of this deposition is on Epstein. And when we learn more, I'll be happy to come out and answer some questions. Thank you all for being here.
Is Epstein's death?
How will the balance of enforcement be if someone doesn't testify but the DOJ decides not to give the papers? Will you still enforce the subpoena against the DOJ?
All right, so you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. So we just saw this shot. It was a brief press conference. Again, today is the first day of depositions regarding Epstein Island saga. So this is regarding convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, who died in a Manhattan detention cell. So that situation has been playing out. It's been sort of the elephant in the room when it comes to the Trump administration. There have been Democrats calling and other Republicans calling on those files to be released. So again, first day of deposition when it comes to the Epstein Island saga regarding convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. We will continue to keep our eye on this. Again, this just popped up, and with Live Impact News, when things pop up, we try to get an ear on it, and we try to get some information on it, bring it to you live. and get you some information there. So again, we'll keep an eye on this deposition as it plays out today on its first day. All right, so we want to shift back now to the conversation that you were listening to regarding the visit by President Putin in Alaska, meeting with President Trump on Friday. What's at stake? What that means? So let's take a listen and continue to listen into that conversation.
Watching this, because this could mean potentially bigger ramifications for Eastern Europe, right? I mean, if Ukraine is annexed in any way, we saw Crimea annexed in the early 2010s. And that obviously created some instability in that region. Other folks were wondering what was next. So set the scene for us in what it looks like in Eastern Europe and why there's such a hesitancy for Ukraine to be a part of Russia.
Yeah, I think the big question is first the ceasefire. Will there be a ceasefire or not? Has something like that been agreed? And will Trump continue American financial and intelligence aid to Ukraine, or has he agreed with Putin to stop that aid? Because the Europeans are in the difficult position that they deliver and provide almost 50% of both military and financial aid to Ukraine, but 50% is only half of what the Ukrainians need. And the Europeans are not in a position, for example, to replace the American intelligence network. They simply haven't got the resources to do that. And also some of the military aid can only be delivered by the United States. So the Europeans, if they are left with having to make up for the aid the United States has so far delivered to Ukraine, the Europeans couldn't replace that. And that, of course, puts them in a very difficult situation. And they all know if Putin gets away with Ukraine and coming out as a victor and perhaps conquering Ukraine to a large extent, or be able to replace Zelensky with a puppet government in Kiev, then Putin may go into other countries in Europe. Moldova comes to mind, Georgia comes to mind, where the Russians already possess two territories which are part of Georgia, but they are occupied by the Russians. And perhaps Estonia comes to mind, and even the Poles are very concerned what Putin might do next. Personally, I don't think that Putin will immediately start invading other countries in Eastern Europe, but it cannot be totally ruled out. And you certainly have to make provisions to make sure that Putin realizes there would be very strong resistance. So the Europeans are in a very difficult position. And Trump has the tendency to mix economic and security concerns. He can always threaten, if the Europeans are not coming on board, that there will be higher tariffs on European exports to the United States, and he can also threaten that he may have second thoughts about staying in NATO, that perhaps the United States will leave NATO after all, despite the 5% increase of defense expenditure which has been agreed recently. So Trump has really all the cards, and the Europeans, despite the Euro being economically strong, they're militarily quite weak. The Europeans are really dependent on the United States, and of course the same applies to Ukraine. Ukraine is totally dependent on American military aid and also financial and intelligence aid. Without the United States, really, it is very doubtful whether the Europeans and Ukraine can continue the war for any length of time in a successful way.
A brilliant explanation, Professor Lars. That really puts it in layman's terms for us to understand. I got to ask, and I don't know if you heard this, did I hear that President Putin had said that if President Trump was president back in 2022, that there would be no war? What did you think about hearing that? Can I ask you?
Yes, I did hear that as well. I think that it has less to do with the facts on the ground, but with flattering Trump. You know, Trump has been saying that for many years now, that if he had been president, the peace would have been preserved. And Putin just repeats that to flatter and impress Trump. Putin, of course, wants to be on the good side of Trump. He knows that what I just said about the Europeans, that also applies to Putin, that the cards are with the American president. And if he can stay on very friendly, that means a lot for success in Ukraine. And if he falls out with Trump, then he has a severe problem. The American president can put a lot of sanctions on the Russian economy. He can provide even more aid to Ukraine. He can do all sorts of things which make life for Russia and for the war very, very difficult. So Putin is really dependent on staying side of Trump, but Putin is a very skillful leader. He's a very and smart man, and he seems to have outmaneuvered Trump at that meeting in Alaska, certainly judged by the listened to, and of course he has been outmaneuvering Trump and playing Trump for the last few months, because Trump and the Europeans have been pushing for a ceasefire for many months now, and Putin has always avoided and evaded that question and managed to continue the war. He talks.
All right, so you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. We are approaching the top of the hour. That is a full conversation with Dr. Lars from UNC Chapel Hill with Colin Mayfield after that meeting between President Trump and President Putin, pretty much breaking down what's at stake and what came from that meeting. So you can catch that full interview right now on our digital platforms. We want to shift over to this. This is happening live. It's just popped up on our screen. So just to give you some context on this. So a teen accused of killing his parents as part of a Trump assassination plot. Am I reading that correctly, Jeb? Okay, so this is the hearing out of Wisconsin. So the 17-year-old boy is charged in the death of his parents in the village of Waukesha, has pleaded not guilty on the now 10 felony counts he is facing. A status hearing was set for August 18th when a trial date could be scheduled. So we could get a trial date coming from this hearing. Let's take a listen in on what's happening right now.
Which for some reason weren't able to be opened on our end, so we have a paralegal who will be in touch with someone on the DA's end to resolve those issues as well.
All right. Ms. Basie, I forgot to ask, has your office complied with victim notification requirements?
Yes, I do believe that.
I believe there's some people on Zoom.
Yes, but we have.
Okay, thank you. How should I schedule this? Should I set a trial date now?
I was going to ask for a status date in about 30 days, Your Honor, and then we could possibly set pretrial and trial dates at that point.
All right, Ms. Basie?
That sounds appropriate.
Okay, all right. And so really then the next date will be a scheduling date,
yes,
setting the matter for trial. I anticipate probably it would be probably a February date, right? But all right, so then report back then in terms of discovery, the next hearing, and how much time have you had to, let's say, digest the discovery? Are there going to be any motions, do you think, Mr. Raffel?
I'm not in a position to answer that yet because we want to do a complete discovery review before that. So I'll have firm answers for that at the next date. Yeah.
Okay, very good.
October 1st, 11:30.
That's fine.
That does not work for me, I'm sorry.
All right.
October 2nd, 11:30.
I can do the afternoon.
All right, so you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. It looks like that shot went out, but just to kind of, again, put more context on it, we're waiting for that shot to pop back up. But a Wisconsin teenager allegedly killed his parents as part of a plot to assassinate President Donald Trump. That's according to federal authorities in newly unsealed court documents. Nikita Kasap, and I believe I'm saying this is correctly, who was 17 years old, called for the assassination of the president and overthrow the U.S. government in written documents and text messages found by investigators, according to a federal affidavit obtained by several affiliates, one of them being an NBC affiliate, along with CNN. So the alleged killing of his parents appeared to be an effort to attain, quote, the financial means and autonomy to carry out the plan. That's according to investigators. So again, that hearing is underway. It looks like the shot went down. As soon as we get that shot back up, we will bring that to you and get more information from what comes about from that. All right, so let's send it back now to that conversation that we've been kind of going on and off on, but this is in preparation to the meeting between Volodymyr Zelensky and President Trump. We wanted to take you back now to a breakdown that we had with Dr. Lars from UNC and Colin Mayfield on the meeting between President Trump and President Putin. Let's take a listen in.
Also wants to see peace, but then he continues bombing Ukrainian cities and hitting civilians very, very hard. And as you just said, while Putin and Trump were meeting in Alaska, the Russian bombing attacks on Ukrainian cities continued. This, to me, does not look like a man of peace. Putin wants to continue the war until he has won in Ukraine.
Let's quickly talk about the weaknesses and strengths. I had kind of alluded to that. I mean, and you just talked about it. I mean, President Putin had barely needed to do anything to walk on American soil today, and as you said, seemed to have the upper hand. It seemed like a lot of the gestures today, there was, I guess, trying to be a show of strength by the United States, but it seems like in some of the op-eds that I've read, that President Putin could see some of this as a weakness, what happened today. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I think Putin has realized that Trump was desperate to get a summit with Putin, because Trump has been promising really since the election campaign that he would end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours, which of course has not happened. And he kept talking about the fact that he would like to bring the war to an end, that he is a peacemaker. He wants to win the Nobel Peace Prize. And Trump has had some successes in creating peace conditions in other scenarios, like Azerbaijan and Armenia, like in Africa, Rwanda and Congo. He has had some success, but the big prize, of course, is the war in Gaza, which Trump has not been able to overcome at all. And the big prize is the war in Ukraine, which Trump also has been unable to overcome and end. And Putin knows that. So Putin knows that Trump is desperate to see and to show to his followers, to the American people, to the world, that he has made progress with bringing peace to Ukraine. And Putin is totally playing that and exploiting Trump's weaknesses. He knows that Trump is a very vain man, that he needs to have his ego stroked, and that he wants to win the Nobel Peace Prize. And Putin has fully exploited that.
Man, some great takeaways there from our discussion there, Professor Lars. As I said, there were some noticeable differences between the first term between President Putin and President Trump, but there were some similarities as well. Has the relationship, do you think, changed at all in any way? We've pointed out how friendly they appear to be to one another, especially for what was supposed to be one of America's biggest adversaries. What are your thoughts on that?
No, not really. When you look at the first term, where Trump had several meetings with Putin and they got on famously, he confiscated the notes of the interpreter so that no one could know what actually was said during his bilateral talks with Putin. And he, during his first term, already said that Russia, of course, did not help him win the elections of 2016, that Russia did not meddle in the elections. The American intelligence network said exactly the opposite, but Trump dismissed that and believed Putin and Putin's promises that Russia did not meddle in the election campaign of 2016. We know for sure that Russia did meddle. We know for sure that Russia did try to influence American public opinion, and Trump has always dismissed that and he continues seeing Putin as a personal friend almost. And I think the difference between the first and the second term are very, very negligible. still sees Putin as someone he can rely on. This is all very disconcerting. Only yesterday, I believe, Lavrov showed up with a shirt with the emblem of the USSR shown on the front of his shirt. And that, of course, indicates what Putin has said many years ago, that the downfall of the Soviet Union was a great geopolitical disaster for him, and that he essentially wants to resurrect as much of the political influence as he can possibly do of the old Soviet Union. And that applies to Ukraine, that applies probably to a large number of countries in Eastern Europe. And that the American president should be really chummy with that man who wants to recreate the Soviet Union, one of the biggest enemies the United States has ever had in the past. This is very disconcerting. And I wonder what, of course, the American military makes of that, what the American intelligence network makes of that, because the leaders and senior personnel in these important positions, they don't share that conviction that Russia and Putin has suddenly become a friend. They regard Russia and Putin still as an enemy, certainly as someone who needs to be viewed with great suspicion, and we can't see that is shared by President Trump. Trump seems to see him as a personal and loyal friend, which is, in my view, utterly mistaken.
Yeah, and I can't imagine the counterintelligence field day that I guess our forces or Russian forces may have with both presidents being in the same limo at one time. I guess we'll have to see what happens from that. I mean, pretty astonishing to hear Russian President Vladimir Putin even call out the president saying, come to Moscow as well. You alluded to that. So I guess we'll see what happens here. Obviously, both men had discussed, not at length, but just going into this meeting in Alaska, that they weren't going to get a peace negotiation done at this place. They were only going to start. Do you expect that we will ever see a ceasefire between Ukraine and Russia, or are we just hoping for something that may never happen?
Well, I think Russia is not in a good position. Whatever Putin claims, and he tries to pretend that Russia is actually winning the war, but when you look at the last 15 months, then the Russians have conquered 1% additional Ukrainian territory, but they've lost over 400,000 soldiers, both killed ones and wounded ones, in order to obtain 1% additional territory. This is not what I would call conquest and great military success. The Russian economy is also under severe pressure. It is not collapsing, I'm not claiming that, but it is under severe pressure. And if the United States, if President Trump did impose secondary sanctions on countries which exported a lot of Russian oil, which finances the Russian war machine, if he did put secondary sanctions on countries such as India, perhaps even on China, this would be a severe problem for the Russian economy and for Putin's financial situation. And I think Putin knows that, and that's the reason why he wants to be very close to Trump and place him and pretends to be a friend of Trump's. So Trump has a lot of cards in his hands which he could play, but so far he has decided not to play them. If there were a meeting between Zelensky, Putin, and perhaps some European leaders, perhaps then, under proper conditions, under proper negotiations, a ceasefire could eventually be achieved. Because Putin cannot fight that war forever. Whatever he pretends, and Russian propaganda is very, very good. You look at RT, at Russia Today, that the digital channel, they are very, very good in bringing their point of view across, and they persuade many people in the world of the Russian point of view. But in fact, the facts on the ground are much tougher to Russia and to Russia's warfighting capability than the Russians let on and than many of us believe. So Putin, in the end, will also have come to the table, and he will also have to agree to a ceasefire and then also to a proper peace treaty. But of course, it needs the Europeans to be present, and above all, it needs Zelensky to be present and discuss and talk to Putin. If you have to rely on Trump and Putin making a deal among themselves, then I think Ukraine is pretty much lost.
Man, just some great expert analysis by you, Professor Lars. Certainly appreciate you. My last thing is, I know you have to go at 8 o'clock for another interview, but anything else that maybe we should talk about or add to the conversation that comes up to you in your mind?
Yeah, what I would like to know is we talk about Trump and Putin all the time, but there were other people in the room, particularly on the American side, Steve Witkoff and above all Marco Rubio. And Rubio essentially is a competent man. He's no pushover, so he also, of course, sucks up to President Trump all the time. But I wonder whether these other people, and there were also, of course, people on Putin's side like Lavrov, whether they were just sitting by and listening without saying anything, or whether they were actually perhaps bringing in some points which were not quite in agreement with Trump and Putin. That would be interesting to know whether there was actually some sort of discussion, maybe even a bit of a controversial discussion, or whether it was just shaking hands and agreeing with each other and there were no disagreements at all. Hopefully in the near future, some of the information will get leaked and we will learn more about that in the hopefully near future. But for the time being, we have to rely on that press conference, and that press conference was, I would say, a little shocking.
Professor Lars, I can only thank you for your time, but it is so good to have you here on WCNC Plus. We hope you will join us again. Again, thank you again for making the time for us here on WCNC Plus.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
All right, thank you. Have a great evening.
All right, so we want to shift now here to this press conference that's happening live. So a former student is announcing a $100 million lawsuit against Michigan State University. A former student, research assistant at Michigan State University, struggling with thyroid cancer after Michigan State University ignored reports countless safety protocols. So let's take a listen into what is being said right now. This has been going on for a few minutes.
Between the herbicides, pesticides, and thyroid cancer is not super well established, and these are hard cases, just hard to prove that how any one cancer diagnosis stems from any one exposure. How do you plan to pursue that?
Experts. We already have experts lined up, ready to speak in regards to the leak.
What response have you had from MSU with the letters, demand letters you've written to them, communication, anything you can share?
Unfortunately, MSU has remained silent, and I think that speaks volumes. We'll take one more question.
And then when did you start to notice that your body was slowly changing? When did you start to feel that there was something wrong?
When I was at MSU, I did feel very uncomfortable in my body. I went to a health center and I did ask help from international students' office, and I did speak up about my concerns to my department, but no one cared. No one listened. They just told me everything was okay.
Any other questions?
And then if you feel comfortable revealing, when did you have to have that surgery? And you were diagnosed with cancer in 2025 of this year, or?
Last year.
Last year.
Yeah, and I did a surgery last year.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, so that press conference just wrapping up. That is a press conference with a former student announcing a $100 million lawsuit against Michigan State University. You see they're walking off. So basically a former student research assistant at Michigan State University struggling with thyroid cancer after MSU, Michigan State University, ignored countless safety protocols and repeatedly exposed her to dangerous chemicals without protective equipment or training, despite her repeated requests. That's according to a report, and that's her claims that she is making against the university. Again, that press conference just wrapped up as she announces that $100 million lawsuit against Michigan State University. All right, so it is 10:13. Thank you for staying with us here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. It's one of those mornings where it has gotten busy. We've taken you through numerous things happening now and happening live. And one of those things that we are keeping an eye on is this: a meeting President Trump will meet with President Zelensky, the president of and the leader of Ukraine. He will meet with several other European leaders there at the White House. So we are keeping an eye on this. Again, we're expected to, and I have the timeline. Let me break down the timeline for you of what we have. So the European leaders expected to arrive at the White House at noon. 1 p.m., President Trump will greet President Zelensky. Then 1:15, there are meetings. 2:15, there are more meetings along with a closed lunch, a photo op at 2:30, and then at 3 p.m., meetings continue with European leaders. Again, this is a loose timeline of what is expected to happen. Of course, we will have it all for you here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. And as soon as those leaders touch down, to when they shake hands with President Trump, to if we do hear anything from inside the White House. So that is expected to happen, and we will continue to keep our eye on the White House and what unfolds. And this comes after that high-stake meeting with President Trump and President Putin in Alaska on Friday. I was about to say Saturday, but Friday. All right, let's shift now here. Let's reset, guys. I know we've been doing a lot of politics throughout the last hour, but let's come back here at home. Let's talk about what's happening, what's happened, and let's talk about Charlotte Pride. Charlotte Pride was a big event that happened over the weekend. If you were uptown, anywhere near uptown adjacent, you probably ran into it, and it was a big milestone year for Charlotte Pride. 25 years of Pride in Charlotte. There is a festival that started on Saturday, ran through Sunday. The big parade was on Sunday. I believe this is the first year it was at First Ward Park. Yeah, First Ward Park. The first year for Charlotte Pride. Just shifted over a few blocks there in Uptown, but a great time. We got a chance to hear from so many people out there at Charlotte Pride, a big event that is celebrating and uplifting and empowering the LGBTQ plus community here in the Carolinas and here in the Queen City, of course. Let's take a listen in to some of the folks that we spoke with out and about at Charlotte Pride.
So tell me about today's event. How's it going so far?
Oh my God, well, we're about an hour and a half in now, and there's already tons of people out here, so we're really excited. We've been working really hard, obviously for the last year, but really intensely the last few days here, making sure that we set up everything so that people can come and enjoy this weekend.
And I think it's the 25th?
We're celebrating 25 years of Charlotte Pride, and one of the big things for this year is that we're in a completely new location. We're at First Ward Park in Uptown. It's giving us about 30% more space before vendors, more opportunity for people to just hang out and really just enjoy this park.
Perfect. And how's the vibe so far? Looks like people are having a good time.
I mean, Pride is always a great time. People are really excited, happy. You know, if you've been here in Charlotte for the last 3 weeks, it's been raining quite a lot, so we're really excited that the rain is holding off this weekend and that everyone can come out and enjoy and listen to music, visit all of our vendors. We have a youth and family zone, so there's just lots of great opportunities for people to come and enjoy.
Perfect. And the last question, this is your first time making the event here. How was the difficulty of getting it here? Not too many pieces, but like briefly, how difficult was it to get it here?
Yeah.
How satisfying is it to see it come to life finally?
You know, we have been talking about moving to a bigger, wider, probably a park space for a few years now. And it's really challenging to move to a new location because in some ways this is, as organizers, our first time here. And, you know, there's always things when you're setting up for such a big event. We're expecting over 250,000 people over the course of this weekend, and so it's a big production. And so for us, it was just really taking time to plan everything as best as we can so that we can give everyone what they come to expect from Charlotte Pride, which is a quality event where they can come and enjoy and have a really great time, create community, connect to resources, and just be in community.
Perfect. And that covers it. Anything else you want to add that I didn't ask?
No, please come enjoy. Make sure that you wear hat, sunscreen, bring a water bottle. We have lots of food here as well, lots of great activations. We have Flourish that's happening today, which is a festival within a festival at the UNC Charlotte Du Bois Center. And then tomorrow on Sunday, we have the parade starting at 1 p.m. And we have the largest parade in the city. So come and enjoy that as well.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Have a good one.
You too. Take care. Thank you. And so, easy question first. What brings you here today?
We love Charlotte Pride. We're here every year. We stay uptown. It's a great place to be, and there's a lot of stuff to see.
The first time you come to an event like this, or?
No, we come every single year.
Perfect. And what's your favorite part about it?
I love that it's so comfortable to be downtown. I love that everything is in one spot. We enjoy all the vendors. We enjoy all the performers.
What would you say an event like this, especially kind of today's climate? What an event like this is so important?
I just think it's a nice, safe space to get together with your community and just celebrate being who you are.
And I think that's it for my question. Anything else you want to add that I didn't ask?
No.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So, you're a volunteer. What made you volunteer for this?
I volunteered last year, and it was very a great opportunity and to see other things happening in the community. So and this year I was like, I volunteer again and help the community out.
What's your favorite part of an event like this?
The favorite part is to get to see new people and get in the backgrounds.
And what would you say is it's kind of, especially I guess today's climate, the importance of an event like this nowadays?
Togetherness, I feel like, building each other up.
And then in terms of since you were here last year, how do you feel about how many people are here today? Because it's a big crowd.
It's a big crowd, but that's always a good turnout. It's a good opportunity to meet more people and network.
Anything else you want to add that I didn't ask?
No, sir.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. So what brings you here today?
I am here to just spread the message, if not you, who? Whatever you are dreaming about, whatever you are scared to do it now. There's a community of people who see you, who may want to stand beside you, and start where you are. So do it now. If not now, when? And I just joined together with different people in the community, the LGBTQ community, to really say it out loud and say it proud.
So in terms of, because I know the climate is a little bit hot with the LGBT community, how important is, if not you, who in an event like this overall?
The message, if not you, who, is so important right now because there are people who probably didn't show up today but wanted to. There are people who showed up today and were kind of like, this is my community, but how are they going to accept me? So it's important to always look yourself in the mirror and say, if not you, who? Show up. If not you, who? Do it today. If not you, who? Be that person that you're thinking about, the one that you're scared of. Just show up as that person right now because there's somebody out here who's waiting on you. So do it now.
And what's your favorite aspect of an event like this today?
You know what? I think really it's just Charlotte putting on an event like this annually to make sure that people are seen. The LGBT community want to be seen. And so I think continuously showing up for them, creating events so they can bump shoulders with other people is going to be more powerful than ever. So how can we continue to make events like this meaningful and to let people just show up as themselves, just as themselves? You're going to see so many different walks of life. So just continue to let that be known here in the Queen City.
Perfect. I think that's it for the questions. Anything else you want to add that I didn't ask?
Only thing I want to add is no matter how you showed up today or how you left, just know that there are people who want to see you win. So just embrace your authentic self and win.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Yeah, sure. Me too.
Okay.
It's all good.
What brought you out here? Is this your first year or?
We come every year.
Yeah, so this is my third. But yeah, ever since it paused from COVID and then started back up, we've been coming.
Yeah, this is my 4th or 5th year. Yeah.
And then, so was there anything specific that you were looking forward to just coming out here, or?
Personally, I was really looking forward to the different art that's out here this year. I got this really awesome piece, so I'm very excited about it. I love seeing all the different floats and all the different artists that come out here, and just seeing all my different friends and connecting with everybody. And Charlotte has just such a great Pride community, so it's just overall a really fun event.
And then, so the parade actually was supposed to be the biggest one yet. Just what were your thoughts on that, just seeing that?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm surprised to hear it was the biggest one. I think we caught maybe just the tail end of it. We were kind of running a little bit late. But the move of the location is interesting. It feels a lot more breathable. There's a lot more room to move around. So it's exciting that they switched it up.
Perfect. And then to come out here and see just this huge crowd, there was supposed to be 250,000 people out here this weekend for this festival. To see this amount of people come here, just what goes through your mind? I
think it's awesome. Every year we've been here, I feel like it's just gotten bigger and bigger. So this is definitely the biggest I've seen and the most amount of people I've seen. And I'm glad about the location change because I feel like it's just a better layout for everything and all the booths and just everything going on.
I think one of the most important things people in Charlotte should know is that this is one of the biggest festivals Charlotte has.
Yes.
So the Charlotte Pride community is huge, and people travel here for it, and we're not underground. It's a big thing, and people always act, oh, here it comes again. Here's the Pride Parade. We're always here. We're loud. We're all here. It's nothing new.
Lots of love and support.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anything else you want to add here?
We just can't wait to see Charlotte Pride next year.
Yeah. I'm sure it'll be bigger and better next year again.
And we hope we have more vendors and sponsors next year. So if you're doubting being a sponsor, you should be one.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys.
And there's sort of the sights and sounds from Charlotte Pride. A good time as always. Again, a big celebration for the LGBTQ plus community here in the Queen City, but not just the Queen City, but all over the Carolinas. So many people turned out. So many people had a great time there. All right, so we're approaching the top, or not the top, the bottom of the hour. It's almost 10:30, 10:25. We're chugging along here on a Monday morning. Thank you for staying with us. So we want to get to another big event that is coming up for us. Clear the Shelters. I know you've heard us talk about it during our shows here on Live Impact News, but it's a very, very big deal. We want to get a lot of these pets adopted. We want to make sure you get the most accurate information when it comes to how to foster possibly and how to help these shelters. They're dealing with a lot. They have an influx of animals in there. Also, they need the resources too. And things are getting more expensive. So you can now donate, go to our website. You can also pop up at our event that's coming up this weekend, Clear the Shelters event. And in preparation for that, and as we look forward to that, Vanessa Rufus, who is I would say an advocate for our animal community and for our shelter. She does a lot of great work. She got a chance to speak with several leaders of shelters across our area. She actually recently got a chance to speak with the folks there in Lincoln County. So in case you missed that conversation, let's take you there now.
And we are turning now to a local effort that we've been highlighting throughout the month of August. We're talking about Clear the Shelters here. So day after day, we've been speaking with a local rescue or shelter who's participating with this magnificent campaign to try to get as many pets adopted as possible, raise awareness about animal welfare and how we can all play a part in that. And so we're really excited to join now with some folks in Lincoln County. We are speaking right now with Helping Animals to Survive. This is essentially a non-profit no-kill partner for the Lincoln County Animal Shelter. And so we have Ken Phelps who's joining us right now. You're a board member. You do a lot of work with HATS and also, of course, by nature of what your group does, a lot of work with the Lincoln County Animal Shelter too. So thanks so much for joining us here in the Live Impact News studio.
Well, it's my pleasure.
Well, we're really excited to talk about all that you do and talk about some of your adoptable pets. You've shared some pictures and bios with us ahead of time, and they got some real cuties, so we're excited to talk about those. I guess first off, I'd love to talk about the no-kill element that y'all have been spearheading in Lincoln County. This has been underway for, from what I understand, more than 10 years is something that's been a priority for your group, and y'all have been able to achieve the no-kill status for the Lincoln County Shelter. So tell us a bit about that.
Well, it all started, I believe, in 2013 And there was a group of people that approached the board, commissioners in Lincoln County, and they asked if they could get the county to consider being a no-kill shelter. The county at that time, they were not aware or not keen to that project, so it took a lot of letter writing, a lot of promotions, a lot of people involved in getting it done. Slowly but surely, the commissioners of the county said, okay, we'll consider going to a no-kill. But for the first couple years, they didn't put anything in place to do that. And then they had a change of personnel, and the new director at the shelter was able to implement things, and it took a couple years to become a no-kill. But I believe it was in June of 2027 that we officially became a no-kill. The no-kill requirements are 12 consecutive months of 90% or better release rate, and you have to do that every month. If you fall behind even 89.9%, that no-kill goes away and you have to start all over again. And fortunately, we've been able to do it and maintain that for a number of years now, and we've not fallen below that 90% in all those years, although sometimes it was very, very close, and we had to put an extreme effort in getting some of the dogs and cats adopted.
I mean, I can imagine how difficult maintaining a status like that can be, not just any time, but maybe particularly now, because I feel like, you know, with some of my volunteer work with at least Charlotte Shelter, I've heard that there's kind of a golden era, if you will, during the pandemic when lots of folks, at least here in Charlotte, wanted to adopt pets. They wanted someone to keep them company while they were working from home primarily or locked down on quarantine. And then kind of after that, it feels like there are various factors that went into play, but now we're starting to see a lot of animals come into shelters, and sometimes it does feel like it's never ending, at least from what we're seeing here in the Charlotte area and kind of the surrounding suburbs. How is it in Lincoln County, from what you understand?
Exactly the same.
Yeah.
The pandemic, we had a lot of dogs adopted. We do it at the PetSmart in Lincolnton, and for 2 or 3 years, that PetSmart was the #1 adoption center in all the Southeast. And that includes, I believe, other competitors as well. And from what the managers told me, the numbers weren't even close. Unfortunately, when the pandemic was over, people started going back to work, and all of a sudden, oh, wait a minute, that dog I adopted, well, what do I do with it now? I'm going to be gone all day. And they try maybe to get it rehomed, but unfortunately, some cases, they basically just drop the dog off someplace and let the dog fend for itself, and that's the sad part of it. But we have to look at it as every dog we get adopted that's one more that we don't have to worry about in the shelter. So.
Yeah, and well, speaking of getting dogs adopted, we've prepared a bit of a slideshow for folks so we can go through some of the pictures that you sent. And I'll kind of direct you. We have a little monitor. Ken, if you ever want to look off to the side, you can see what is on the stream. So right now it's us, but we're about to show Randall first off, because Randall here is adoptable. He's 5 years old, neutered male boxer mix, and he's got some great notes from what I understand. Y'all do a lot of work with volunteering, and so I can imagine you have some volunteers with the shelter who've spent some time with Randall and they've gotten to know him. So what can you tell us about Randall?
Well, Randall has been with us probably the longest. He's been with us, I think, since December of last year. We've had him at our adoption event. Randall is a great dog. He's very friendly. He likes to be a lap dog. He can be dog selective, and that's the case of a lot of dogs. They have a tendency to, after they've been in the kennel, they want to be protective, I guess. So Randall we'd love to have a meet and greet with other dogs. We've had a couple, and it just hasn't worked out yet, but we will find the right home for him.
Well, I mean, and I think that is a great segue into maybe talking about the term dog selective, because we used it actually in the last segment that we did for Clear the Shelters here on Live Impact. But it's a term that we hear in rescue where you have a dog who probably has the potential to get along well with other dogs, but you just kind of have to find out what that factor is. Is it, you know, if Randall's a male, does he get along better with female dogs? Or does Randall get along better with dogs his own size versus smaller dogs? Any indication that he might have a certain, dog that he would get along with? You haven't found it yet, and it's potential that you just...
No, and at our shelter, they do a kind of a let the dogs roam in their play area together. They don't just bring one dog out and leave it. Some of our shelter personnel have been trained to handle dogs that are in a group. And Randall is out there in those groups a lot of times, but sometimes he has a tendency to be maybe a little pushy towards other dogs. We just don't know. Some dogs don't like little dogs. Some dogs don't like bigger dogs. So it's hard to say where Randall's focus is. A lot of times it can be just, if we do have a dog that's adopted, it's a slow process in introducing him to other dogs. Let them know that he is part of the pack. And that's exactly what they are, whether it be 2 dogs or 5 dogs. When they get to know each other and they become accepted or accept other dogs, that becomes a pack instinct for them.
Yeah. Well, I would urge folks not to write Randall off just because, I've seen multiple cases where either with training or just taking the time, as you mentioned, being nice and slow, Randall could probably find, a household that he would get along great with, whoever the family member is. But we've got another pup to share in the meantime. So our next pup up is Fred. So give us a second. We're going to get Fred up on the screen. So looks like Fred is 67 pounds, neutered male terrier mix. Good guy to be outdoors, being, running around, scrappy dog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is. Randall is basically a typical pit bull mix. He's like a blue pit bull. If you look closely at Randall, he has some scars on his face, so we know there's been some difficulty in his life in the past.
Aww.
But he still is real friendly. He loves people, and typical pit bulls or the mixes, they love kids.
Mm-hmm.
They absolutely love kids. A lot of people don't realize that the early 1900s, they were considered the nanny dog.
Yep.
People loved them because they loved kids and they were protective of their kids.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, he looks like a cutie, and I'd certainly love to see him in a forever home, considering the fact that you just mentioned it sounds like maybe he has been through some tough times. We've got Jersey up next. Ooh, I love the ears on Jersey.
Jersey's one of my favorites.
Yeah, tell us about her.
Well, Jersey has been to 2 or 3 of our adoption events. I, for the life of me, cannot figure out why she hasn't been adopted.
Oh.
She's sweet, as I mentioned to you in the bio I sent. She has a tendency to be protective when she's within a barrier, like a crate or a cage or something like that. She becomes a totally different dog once she's out. She's happy, she plays, she likes people. All those transitions from the cage to outside, they go away when she's out. And
Yeah.
she is very, very active.
I just love her face. She's got almost like a Batman look, but
Yeah, she's got the ears, for sure.
And I feel like, this is probably a good time to talk about barrier reactivity, because that's something that I've seen, historically, that could be trained out of a pet.
Absolutely.
If you, either get professional help or, you could do some good research online. There are a lot of tricks and tools that you can learn about to kind of get a dog a little bit more comfortable. Essentially what you find is sometimes there's a little bit more anxiety with a dog that is meeting another dog, let's say, but there's a barrier between them. So maybe it's a kennel door. In some cases you see leash reactivity, which is kind of considered like a barrier as well. The dog doesn't feel free to move around, so they get a little bit more anxious. But all of that I've seen, there are multiple trainers in our area that can work on that. And, if that is something that somebody would like to do.
And in Jersey's case, hers is more reactive when she's kind of boxed in.
Okay.
We see a lot of dogs that the shelter people do their best to give a bio on them, and then we get them at our adoption event. And for example, I'll give a perfect example that we had a dog adopted a couple weeks ago. He was supposed to not like men. Well, I don't know where it came from. Could have been totally from the kennel, but he was his name was Roscoe, and he was so into everybody. Matter of fact, when a couple would approach him, he'd more often go to the man than the woman. And
It's interesting.
I think I sent you a picture of Roscoe.
Oh.
He is the one that is laying down with his belly being rubbed with a huge smile on his
Oh,
face.
I think, let's see, we might have that actually. It's, Jeb, it's the, on the
Right.
right side of our play deck.
Oh, gotcha.
Right, on the right side, right at the bottom. Tuesday. Yep. That's him. I think that's him. Is that him?
Yep, that's Roscoe.
We got him.
Look at the smile on his face.
And that looks like a man petting him, by the way.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the dangerous man that he doesn't supposedly like. And we saw that all day long. And he was another one that was great to be a couch potato.
Yeah. So that's some of the pictures, by the way, that you sent us of one of your adoption events, or actually probably multiple of your events, kind of all edited together. But we've got 4 folks up next. Oh, she's a cutie, and she's the Chocolate Lab. I love her. And I do have, oops. Sorry, folks. They're not adoptable. They're already spoken for. I apologize. That was a miscue, mispunch. But let's go ahead and get to Katie, I believe, is the next one. Yep. She's a senior. I love seniors, by the way.
Katie, we had her last week at the adoption event. She's laid back. She is a senior. They have a guest age around 8 at the shelter. She seemed to act younger than 8. The only thing they can tell by age when they come in as strays is by what their teeth look like. So that's why some dogs, they do their best again to guess their ages. Katie is typical Chocolate Lab. She's fun-loving. She's just a sweet girl. My wife had her part of the time last week, and she just loves her. If I didn't have enough dogs at home, I probably would find a home for Katie.
Yeah. I mean, loves a good lap. I love to hear that. Oh, like a nice security blanket for you.
Exactly.
Oh, and yeah, the seniors sometimes can get overlooked in the shelter, which is such a shame, because you find that sometimes the puppy behaviors, if you feel like you're not quite ready to navigate all that, the seniors kind of come free of that, I want to say. In a lot of cases, sometimes they're housebroken because maybe they have lived in a house previously before they came to the shelter. She's, what a face. I just love to see it.
Yep, I love that face.
All right, our next pup here, I believe we've got up next. Yep, that's the Scarf Baby. I call her Mandy Rose.
Mandy Rose, yeah.
She is a lab, and she is on the senior side as well.
She is, but there is definitely not a senior bone in her body right now.
Oh, she's still energetic.
She is very energetic. In the cages that we had them in over the weekend, she spent as much time standing up as she did down, and she didn't lay down till the end of the day. And sometimes the day gets long for them, so.
Yeah.
But she was up every time somebody came around. Mandy May is a type of dog that probably you wouldn't want her to be adopted if you had domestic goats or chickens or anything like that, because she has the instinct. But she's a great girl. She's been out a couple times on a 5-bark stay. That's where people can take them out, give them a few days out of the shelter, and then they can bring them back. And so she's been out a couple times. So she's been at the shelter probably overall about 2 months, I'm going to say.
Yeah. But she seemingly does well with other dogs.
Yes,
which is good.
She's good with other dogs. That's correct.
Very, very cute. Yeah, likes to chase goats was the note that you sent me.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my, Mandy Rose.
That was her last 5-bark.
Okay. And I believe we have a kitty cat too for our next one. So our next is Snowball, who is also on the older side, but he's got a little blep for us, a little tongue action in that picture, which is so cute. It's Tongue Out Tuesday. Tell us about Snowball.
Well, Snowball has been at the shelter for a little while. Like you said, senior cats and dogs are a little harder to get adopted. Everybody loves the kittens, and we are still in kitten season, but Snowball is still available and adopted. She might need a little bit of patience to adapt because cats have a tendency to
All right, so this is our interview with the officials there in Lincoln County. As we get ready for Clear the Shelters, you can catch that interview on our digital platforms. We want to shift now here live. We're trying to get more information. We're just being transparent. We're trying to get more information, but we saw Lindsey Graham, Senator out of South Carolina. So let's take a listen in to what he is saying now as we work to get more information. It looks like, Jeb, I can't say, it looks like this is coming out of Charleston, South Carolina. So let's listen in, though.
What about ports? Being from Seneca, it's not that big of an issue, but if you're representing South Carolina, it was a make or break moment. And Barbara and those who came before you and your team informed myself and my staff about what you needed. And I want to thank my staff who's been persistent in tackling this issue. Failure was not an option. Colonel, you're one of many who represent the Army Corps of Engineers. You're a Ranger. I know what that patch means. Thank you to you and your team and those who came before you to get to yes. If we had failed in this endeavor, it would have crippled South Carolina's economy. So in 2011, I'll never forget this as long as I live, we needed the work study plan to begin. Is that what you call it? For a new start. The Army Corps of Engineers could not start the work to do the study to keep us on schedule unless there's some money in the budget authorizing to do that. We were in this crazy time of no earmarks, and there was nothing in the budget coming from President's office. And I said, we're not moving forward in the Senate until we get some money in the budget to do the work study in Charleston to deepen the port. So we're talking about 580, what was it?
580 million.
580 million. The $150,000 was the most crucial. So, Harry Reid, God bless his soul, we disagreed on most everything, but Harry was the guy you could do business with. He was the majority leader. And I remember going to him and saying, I have a problem in South Carolina. I've tried to be helpful, making the Senate run. I've tried to reach across the aisle when I thought it was appropriate. I need some help. And I mentioned $150,000. No one had ever asked for $150,000. He thought it was for me. And the good news is he was willing to help me. No, I don't need the money. I'm good. It's for my state. I got to get some amount, just any amount, into the bill. And $150,000 went into the budget in 2011 to keep us on track. That was a moment where everything could collapse if we didn't think creatively and act boldly. So, to people of South Carolina, it does matter to have a working relationship with both parties, because there may come a time when you need something. And the reason they help me is because I help other people when they have problems. And that's the way the world works. So fast forward, another problem. Getting the money to keep on track. Governor Haley at the time, I think, and Senator Leatherman, God rest his soul, I asked them, if you will go ahead and forward fund, I'll get you the money back. We're in a race to get this done. So let's go around the bureaucracy. Trust me here. You go ahead and put the money up, and I'll get back what the federal government owes you. I kept my promise. And we're going to show you a check here in a minute. And the way I've been able to do that is everybody has worked with me. I want to thank President Trump and his team for making this happen. So 2019, President Trump came through at a crucial time. So from Harry Reid to Donald Trump, it takes a lot of people to deepen a port. And what was it, 46 or 48?
45.
Yeah, 45. To go from 45 feet to 52, you think wouldn't be that hard. It was. It cost a lot of money. There were a lot of regulations involved and a lot of hurdles to get over, but we got over all of them. Why? Because failure was not an option. Sometimes in this business, you have to put aside your pride, you have to put aside your political differences to get a solution. And I think all of us in this state have worked together to make this happen. Barbara, you're doing an outstanding job continuing a great legacy. The Port of Charleston is thriving, not just surviving. The Port of Charleston is an envy of the nation, at least on the East Coast. How did we get there? Working together and not taking no for an answer. Colonel, you and all of those before you have been great partners to achieve what I think is one of the most important things I'll ever do for South Carolina. I think of all the things that I've been involved with, this is, I think, the most important and the most consequential. Because if we had not broken through in 2011, we would not be standing here today. If we had not gotten to 52 feet, people literally would pass us by. When you think about these things, I think about what I've learned. Bigger ships matter. I've learned that there's a new class of ships. They're called the Panama, what do you call them? Post-Panamax ships that are bigger than ever. The bigger, apparently the better in the commercial world. The bigger the ship, the better for business. Those big ships couldn't come here. And if those big ships don't come here, then we become a little port. What she said is pretty astonishing. They come here regardless of the tide. We're not dependent on the tide to get ships into the Port of Charleston. 24/7, Charleston can accommodate the biggest ships on the seas, which makes Charleston a crown jewel of the shipping economy in the United States. That happened because we went from 45 to 52. As to the North Charleston component, I think I know what they want me to do. They want me to help, and we'll help. If it doubles the capability, is that right?
That's correct.
Money vested. So I'll end with this. To the American taxpayer, a lot of your money goes to Washington, and I can't say all of it's been well spent. We're trying to do a better job of guarding taxpayer dollars. But this check comes from the people of the United States. It's not my money. It's the taxpayers of this country. And what I would tell every taxpayer that helped deepen this port, you will benefit as well. Our economies are all connected. What happens in Europe and Asia matters to us. What happens in South Carolina matters to our neighbors. What happens in South Carolina affects the ability of the United States to be competitive. So this money came from the American taxpayer. I live in Seneca. The Port of Charleston, as I said before, I understand to be the crown jewel of South Carolina's economy. The Port of Charleston, I think, is the crown jewel of the East Coast. What does that matter to the American economy? We can do business. We can bring products in and we can ship products out. So this money is about $56 million. It matters to the port. It's money they can use to do other things with. The federal government met their commitment. I made a promise to you, and I kept it. And to all those who made this happen, God bless you. But this $21 million is the last payment. And we did it quickly. And we have more challenges. On to North Charleston.
Thank you, Senator.
Here you go. I'm in a visual business. Come here, Colonel. This is not live. This is not the real check. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Senator Graham, this has clearly been a very big project that you've been involved in during your time in Congress. Why is this something that you wanted to take on?
Because I represent the state of South Carolina, and if we cannot accommodate shipping in Charleston, our economy slowly dies away. BMW produces cars in the upstate to be shipped all over the world through this port. If they can't do that, they made a bad business decision. If you want to recruit people in the future to come to South Carolina who are in the export business, import business, the first thing we should say to that company, we have the deepest port on the East Coast. It gives us an advantage in an international market, in a world economy. So I understood very quickly that failure was not an option. As shipping changes, so the port has to change. We knew that the size of the ship was going to change, and if we didn't go to 52 feet, we'd get left behind. So 52 feet was the goal to make sure that we could service the world economy 24/7. I picked up on that pretty quickly. And to get from there to here has taken a lot of effort. But in 2011, we hit a wall. And of all the money we've gotten for the port, that $150,000 in 2011, I think is the most important contribution I made. Because without getting that money in the budget, we would not have achieved it on time, on schedule, and may not have gotten there at all. But from a South Carolina point of view, 1 in 9 jobs come from this port. It's indispensable to the South Carolina economy.
More than a decade in the making. How does it feel to be standing on this side of the tunnel today?
You know, there's times in this job where you sort of, well, that was a good thing. I'm proud of today. It's taken a lot of people a long time to get this right, and I'm proud of the part I played and my staff. But it's not about me, it's about me being part of something bigger. Again, it's hard to explain to people who are busy with their own lives and got their own bills to worry about and their kids and all kind of problems out there. This is a moment to celebrate we got it right. I can promise you, no matter where you live in South Carolina, going to 52 feet in Charleston for the port was a big deal to you and your family. Okay? Thank y'all. Anything else?
Barbara, it's been almost 3 years since the physical work wrapped up on the evening. How has that impacted business at the port since 2022? What do you see?
Thank you. I think we've seen significant increase in the size of ships and the depth to which they have arrived with imports, and just as importantly, the depth to which they can load with American exports. Our exports out of the United States are heavier than most import boxes, and exports are just as much of a reflection of our success as a country, if not more, than what we import and consume. And here in the Southeast, we are exporting manufactured parts for automobiles, resins, farm products, forest products, proteins, all of the things that matter to our farmers, our foresters, and our manufacturers. And that truly is the label of success that we wanted with our deepening project. So responsive to the size of ships coming with imports from Asia and Europe and other places, as well as carrying our heavy export products around the world.
There's been a recent rollout of tariffs on imported goods. Has that impacted business at all with the port in the last few months?
We'll see. We'll see. There's been certainly a responsiveness in importers to watch the implementation of tariff deals as well as what might come in the future. And I think just as in any economic cycle that we have endured, this port, because of our infrastructure investments, will come out on the strong side of that.
Let me
Sorry.
Go ahead.
If you don't mind me asking, is there like a good timeline of when we'll see the next steps when you spoke about like the broader infrastructure strategy and things like that?
Yes, so you're seeing them today. We are actually building Berth 2 at the Leatherman Terminal. We are completing construction on our dual-served intermodal facility that is just north of the Leatherman Terminal that will be connected by a drayage road. You'll see us moving soon on a contract to take the old paper mill to surface, so we'll be demolishing buildings. So I think, stay tuned. We are an infrastructure building machine. We like to build infrastructure that is responsive to our needs, but is also complementary to the area in which we live. So the barge project will be coming online after the intermodal project is finished. So just stay tuned. We never stop.
Barbara, back to those imports. You know, if you live at the bottom of the bridge and work at the bottom of the bridge, like so many of us at Channel do, you see a lot of Chinese flagships coming in. It feels like there's fewer. What's the reality on Chinese imports right now?
I think that Chinese imports have stayed steady during this first quarter of the new fiscal year for us. Our fiscal year runs July 1 through June 30. That was what we had somewhat forecasted would happen, is a steady state in our imports. But I expect holiday season coming up that we'll see a bit of a bump in those imports coming in. And you know, you really should be on the lookout for a multitude of ships that come into our harbor. We are well represented across the globe with ships that call here from various markets in China, Southeast Asia, Europe, the Med. So lots of exciting opportunities to see a variety of import cargo coming in.
We're going to wrap up questions, but if anybody has any follow-up.
All right, so you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturtevant. There is a press conference happening live in Charleston, South Carolina. Senator Lindsey Graham is with the South Carolina Port Authority, talking about enhancements to the Port of Charleston. So that is happening live. We're right here at the top of the hour. Thank you for being with us here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. It was a pleasure. A lot happening, but don't